And welcome into CMS Connected, the web content management industry's only news commentary show. Hi everybody, I'm Butch Stearns, your co-host, your new co-host here for CMS Connected. We'll get into that in just a second. Today's specific topic, the important role that a best fit integration team will play in overall success of your CMS project. Let me repeat that. The important role that a best fit integration team will play in overall success of your CMS project. That is the topic of today's CMS Connected. And I am joined, as always, not with me, but as always, the co-host of CMS Connected is the principal analyst and president of Digital Clarity Group, Scott Lear.
How's it going, man?
It's going well, Scott. Glad to be here.
I am super excited to have you on. We all love Tyler. We bid him a strong farewell, but I tell you what, sharing the camera with you is a dream come true.
Well, two things. One, Tyler is dead to us now, okay? We love Tyler. Yeah, number two, it took a lot of negotiation. I got season tickets to the Vancouver Canucks, an autograph Roberto Luongo jersey, and some free golf foursomes. So.
Extremely valuable package they put together for you.
So let's talk about the subject and the important role that a best fit integration team will play in overall success of your CMS project. Give me one line that you're excited about talking to this today.
I think this is where it really matters. We always talk technology, and talking about how it's done, how it's implemented, how you're going to get there, who's going to help lead you there. That's the glue that holds it all together. I'm really excited to talk about it.
And here's what else we have coming up in the show today with Scott and I on CMS Connected. Jason Crea from Sharewell Software is going to join us. Jason's got some passionate things that he wants to talk about this particular subject, and he's got a wealth of experience when it comes to that. Brian Ruby, in our Spotlight segment, will be reviewing the Liferay portal, and Brian will join us there in our Spotlight segment. And of course, it's another installment in the award-winning, ever-popular Rapid Fire segment where we put Scott on the clock. But before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge our CMS Connected lead sponsors for this show who make this all happen. First of all, Falcon Software. Falcon provides creative design, e-commerce, web content management, social and mobile solutions for organizations across the globe. And Digital Clarity Group. DCG is a research and advisory firm focused on navigating organizations through the digital transformation process. I would also like to recommend to you, after thanking Falcon Software and DCG, that right below where you're watching right now, you can download the white paper on how to select the right CMS integration partner. It's located right there at the bottom of your screen. Download it now or wait till later. How to select the right CMS integration partner. All right, time for news now. Scott, you ready for this?
I am.
All right, let's kick it off with 5 news stories and get Scott's take on the significance of these news stories in the CMS space. We start with the AdWords adaptation. And the news, this is something that pay-per-click marketers everywhere undoubtedly had postmarked July 22nd, because the news, Google once again behind it and force-feeding things to us, automatically upgraded all AdWords accounts. Automatically, I think, is the key word there. What the significance of this is they're eliminating the option to target phones and tablets. So they're doing this now. This is the latest wake-up call for a lot of people, isn't it, Scott?
It really is. It's once again we see the sledgehammer of Google dropped. Whatever it is they want us to do, whatever direction they want to steer us in, that's the way that we've got to go. So you said that marketers have had this date locked on their calendar. I'm not sure that all of them necessarily did. I think there are probably plenty who weren't really paying very close attention and got surprised by this, right? So first of all, those who were proactive, they absolutely could have. They could have made these changes. They could have upgraded themselves proactively. Mm-hmm. So this is not something that's completely new. But what Google did was they said, if you haven't done this by now, we're going to do it for you. We're going to force you into this. Big implications, though.
So talk about the main effects of this. I mean, by eliminating the option to target mobile and all this and that, if you were behind the 8 ball in your mobile strategy or mobile website before, sorry.
Yeah.
Again, that's the wake-up call part of it,
exactly.
Isn't it?
That's exactly right. Because what basically happens is now, before you can have an ad and you can have a specific URL that said, if this is if the person who's using it on this end is coming from a mobile device, then send them to this URL that I've got, because that's where I want my mobile traffic to go. Or frankly, don't send them anywhere because I don't have a mobile presence and I don't want that traffic. Or you can redirect the PC traffic elsewhere. Now you can't do that anymore. You can't target in that way. So everyone goes to one place. What does that mean? Everyone's got to have your mobile strategy. If you haven't listened to us before, if you didn't watch the mobile show, if you haven't haven't heeded any of the warnings thus far, you are facing penalties right now because you're behind the 8 ball.
All right, news item number 2 is about a big purchase, and it's Adobe buying Neolane. After Salesforce.com announced its acquisition of ExactTarget in June, Adobe counters now with a signed letter of intent to buy Neolane for $600 million. Oh, by the way, in an all-cash transaction. Scott, you got $600 million laying around anywhere if you'd like to,
I got it.
do this. And while the size of the deal isn't in the same league as the Salesforce purchase of ExactTarget for $2.5 billion, still a significant move. Why, Scott?
Sure. This is significant for a few reasons. Number one, this isn't really a surprise to anybody in terms of that Adobe would go out to market and go buy marketing automation vendor. I mean, this has happened whether it's with ExactTarget or Aqua or any of the others. There's just been a sweep up of them. Marketo was probably would have been the likely target, but with them going IPO and their stock on the rise, then that makes them unlikely. But so we knew that Adobe was going to go pick up somebody, but we didn't necessarily know who. I think, though, the surprise a little bit for me was that it was Neolane. In fact, I think, well, I like them. They're on the rise. They're a great company. They're relatively small user base comparatively to some of the others, hence the smaller price tag. They only had $58 million in revenue, so this was about a 10x purchase there. And frankly, it's kind of one of the least sexy tools, to be honest with you. That's out there, and so therefore, and Adobe is kind of the most sexy. So they're going to have to significantly, I think, overhaul the user experience. Certainly.
So you gave us your take on Neolane, but how about from the Adobe perspective?
Yeah.
What does this do in the Adobe versus Salesforce? What is your thought about why this for Adobe?
Yeah, I don't think Adobe is as worried about Salesforce, but certainly for Adobe in terms of assembling their CEM or CXM suite, their customer experience suite. They already had kind of 5 platforms within that suite. They had the social marketing, they had the analytics already, which was the Omniture play that they made a while back. They had the web experience, the web content management, which was the former Day acquisition they had. Media optimization also came from Omniture, and the testing and targeting. So they already had those 5 pieces. To add marketing automation in that, especially where Adobe is really only about 2 years into the enterprise, right? They were shrink-wrap software before. So marketing automation is significantly required in order to kind of be able to play to the strengths of the enterprise. And so this really rounds out their suite nicely. It's a good move for them to have.
Give us one other key point about Adobe buying Neolane here. Like, what's the next shoe to drop? Or what happened? What's the follow-up to this now after this?
Well, I think first of all, you'll probably continue to see more of their competitors pick up other marketing automation vendors. So those that are left out there, and there still are a few, will likely continue. This will be the continuation of the trend. So they're competitors because they pit themselves straight up against the Oracles and the others that they couldn't necessarily compete with as well in the enterprise. Now that they've picked this up, the next step though, I think Adobe will simmer down a little bit, to be honest with you. I think they've probably now rounded out their suite fairly well. There are some things that they can't necessarily do, but I'll tell you what, this puts them in a pretty good position in the integration of all these products that they've got as a challenge. I think the question for me, though, for Neolane customers, is that they were both an on-premise and a cloud solution. With Adobe's really big push into the cloud, they're trying to take everything into their marketing cloud. I wonder if those on-prem folks are going to kind of be a little bit abandoned or forced into the cloud a little bit.
News item number 3 here on CMS Connected, and it's Aqua making another big announcement. When aren't they making big announcements? Voted by Inc. magazine as the number 8 fastest growing company in America, software company number 1 in all of New England. What they're announcing is this week they unveiled the Aqua Cloud Site Factory, a turnkey digital experience platform that empowers marketers to deliver dozens or hundreds of brands, campaign and promotional websites. Aqua Cloud Site Factory will enable marketers now, Scott, to create dynamic, customized sites in minutes. And also, they claim that even non-technical users can rapidly do this. Aqua has grown exponentially. They're one of the coolest companies around, but this is the reason why. They continually strive to me, internally say, how can we be a better solutions provider for our clients?
I'll tell you what, they do. So first of all, that's key that you said, the solutions provider, is that Aqua is kind of probably best known for the services that they provide around the Drupal
Besides their
product.
cool name.
It is a cool name. But you know, it was really, it's obvious they're dedicated to the Drupal platform, with Dries Breithart heading as their CTO and founder, who's also the founder of the Drupal project. But they were primarily providing services around it. They always had some products, but that certainly wasn't their bread and butter from a revenue standpoint. I think they're really trying to make a push where they're essentially, with this announcement, they're shifting their Drupal Gardens product, which didn't have a ton. I mean, certainly it had customers, but I don't think it was where it could have been for Aqua, into as the kind of their frontline product now, where they really will be able to be evaluated as a product company. Where I was saying on a show, we were talking about, you know, the Forrester's take on them in terms of where they positioned them on the wave. They didn't exactly know how to evaluate them or their revenues, because they were more services company than they were a product company. Now they're a product company. They got this product. I think this is going to be their platform they're going to really push hard.
So there's a lot of companies out there that have to deal with startup websites on a regular basis, right?
Yep.
And those companies, I would imagine, have a hard time with consistency and doing all this and that. Tom Erickson, the CEO of Aqua, said that those are the people we're targeting with this. This is, among other things, those are the people that we're targeting that can, this is what the Aqua Cloud Site Factory can really help them. How? Explain. Talk about that a little bit more.
It does exactly what it says. It's a much better name, by the way, than Drupal Gardens. You didn't know what the heck Drupal Gardens meant, right? Was it growing flowers with Drupal?
Yeah, I thought I had to walk in with a bouquet.
Now, Aqua Cloud, it's in the cloud, a site factory. You can produce lots and lots of websites right off on this one same platform. It's hosted in the cloud for you. Very little work, very little dependence on IT, that whole thing. So all of that, plus, you know, it's got a nice user experience, a decent user experience, and so that's where they're trying to appeal to those who are kind of the less tech savvy and saying that you can do all of this kind of on your own. I think that's great, but frankly, that defines what Drupal Gardens already was. I'll tell you what's really neat about this. Drupal was loved by its developers and by the folks who use it because of all the different things that you could do with Drupal as a product. 20,000 modules out there that you could basically build whatever you wanted, Bruce, with this thing.
So people
but the problem with Drupal Gardens was you couldn't do that in Drupal Gardens. They had to, because it was a cloud-hosted environment and because it was a SaaS play, they had to pre-pick 20 modules or something to give to everybody. So you couldn't really benefit by the fact that you were using Drupal. Now they've found a way to essentially have this in the cloud where it's a multi-tenant SaaS play, but you can still have the modules that you want to have. And so now you still have the flexibility of Drupal as well as the backing of Aqua and the cloud-hosted support, and kind of have
Yeah, so if you're one of those many people who's evangelical about Drupal or Drupal Gardens, what you're saying is you can have the best of both worlds. When you think about the customizable aspect of this, when you think about the ease of use, the non-technical part of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this really pits them well, where, again, before they were just kind of having to support and you know, other Drupal implementations. I think now you're going to see a lot of folks swarm to this. As we've seen, they talk about, you know, in the music industry, they have a large, I'm going to forget which one it is now, but one of the very large music company, is it Warner? I don't know which one it is, but where they've got all these artists that are on the platform. They have completely different looking websites, but they're all managed very easily in this cloud. I mean, it's just, it's very flexible, and I really like that you can tailor the site exactly how you like, which you expect from Drupal.
News item number 4, going with the theme of this show, a big partnership to be announced. It's Box and Salesforce. They form a powerful cloud partnership. Salesforce and Box announce this partnership, which will allow the Box tool to be available as a download in the Salesforce.com App Exchange Marketplace. In a blog post on the Box website announcing the deal, Box CEO Aaron Levy explains they're using Box Embed technology to embed the entire Box experience inside Salesforce.com, giving Salesforce.com a content management layer that had been lacking. Talk to us about this, Scott. What does this mean?
Yeah.
What do you like about this partnership?
Okay, let's step back for 1 second.
Sure.
In the days of old, and 10 years ago or so, the big thing was all about enterprise content management. Sort of that philosophy was, let's build huge play that can touch every part of the business, but it'll be one big gigantic platform system that everybody's going to have to come on. And guess what? That didn't work so well, right? I mean, people are still out there trying to do it, but I tell you what, that's a struggle. What's happening here is we're saying, let's take the best of all those parts and pieces. Let's recognize that there's a lot of folks in the enterprise that are using Box in however they use it for whatever business processes they're using it, and we're going to make that available to those who are using Salesforce who can continue to use Salesforce the way that they do. So let's let everybody work in their native environment doing things the way that they want to do it, to the most efficient way that they can do it, with the user experience that they've been used to, yet still be allowed to collaborate in a way that's really meaningful to bring these parts of the organization together. So I think that's really what's critical about this. So yes, on the Salesforce side of things, but you've got the Salesforce users who certainly get the advantage of now having Box there with they've got a content management layer and all that, and that's wonderful. But I think the biggest advantage is those who were just Box users before, who can now continue to work as they always did, yet be able to act as a part of the process of whatever process was being managed through Salesforce. So take really quickly an example of a deal process when you're trying to go and do a sale, right? You've got a lot of people involved. You've got the salespeople who are obviously working in Salesforce. Then you've got legal folks who have to review documents. Right now, that email is getting passed all along. There's track changes all over the document being done outside of it, right? They can continue to work in Box as they always did. You don't have to give them a license into Salesforce, but they can be a part of the process just by working the way that they always did, and you get the benefit of it.
I want to read a comment to you, and I want you to make sense of it for us. It's from Dan Kelsden. He's the principal consultant at Information Architected. And he says, as with Oracle and Salesforce, this partnership is a complicated relationship. But when each company feels it can walk away with something, deals like this happen. He says, quote, where the Box Salesforce relationship goes is anybody's guess, but the future of enterprise systems is exactly what this move indicates. Death to silos and a drive to contextual integration. It's sort of reinforcing what you just said, isn't it?
It really is. And Dan Keldson, yeah, he's a great guy. He's a good thought leader. I think he's saying it exactly right. Again, what I've always said is I hate the idea of people always want to knock on silos. Silos are a very decent thing. Silos have always served a really strong purpose. Think about the farm, keeping the wheat from the grains and whatever. That's totally fine. The key is, how do you decide to go get the best of those various silos in one place? We haven't merged silos and broken down silos here. We've allowed the silos to stay in place. We've got a nice vehicle, though, to be able to pull the best of each silo into one place. That's what I think is great.
News item number 5 comes from those ever-thinking thought leaders at Digital Clarity Group, a major announcement by them. They released their new service providers report. I joke, I make fun, Scott, but in dead seriousness, you are really proud of this. Why this report? Why now? Let's talk about what it is.
So let me tell you a quick little thing, my Jerry Maguire story, but this is why I founded Digital Clarity Group, right? As an analyst in the industry, I essentially felt like for years that I had one arrow in my quiver, and that was to be able to go recommend various pieces of technology to folks. I did 33 technology selections in my last firm, and out of every one of them, I could walk away and basically flip a coin as to whether or not those customers were going to be able to be successful in that product or not, because I had no part in deciding who was going to help to implement this for them, how they were going to be guided, whether or not they'd appeal and understand their strategy and be able to be clear about it, whether they had enough fluency with the platform that I was recommending. I had no part in that process, and frankly, my customers didn't necessarily think very hard about that either. It was a last-minute thing about, okay, we've spent so much time finding the perfect technology, and then just get somebody in there to go and implement it. And I feel like that was where things were missing.
So were you up late one night like Jerry Maguire with that one arrow in your quiver, wrote a mission statement, walked out of the office, said to hell with everybody, and Dorothy Boyd folled you out of the office with the goldfish?
I wish it was that dramatic. Instead, my firm shut down. I had no place to go.
Truth be told.
But I did write that Jerry Maguire story. I did literally write it out, and it's a blog post of my 1 year in, if you want to go check it out. Yeah.
This report is the first of its kind. Why?
It is the first of its kind. It basically says, look at all the quadrants and waves and all that you want. It's very valuable to go figure out what the best technology is for you, but the best technology can fail on you if not implemented correctly. What this basically does is it takes a look at that. What you just saw on the screen was an example of one profile that would have anywhere from 4 to 8 pages on 43 different service providers, how they work, what their approach is, what their expertise is in, what technologies they partner with, what their customers say about them. It's a detailed view of 43 different providers that, oh, by the way, were told to us that when we said, how do we figure out who to include in this report? There are thousands of agencies and systems integrators out there. How do you decide which 50 to include? So we went to the web content management vendors and said, who are your key partners that you referred people to, and we'll go talk to them and talk about pulling them into
I find myself oftentimes, tell me if I'm right on with this, about what your goals were with this report and what you hope it becomes going forward.
Sure.
I often refer back, I think, as a lot of people do, to Steve Jobs' commencement speech at Stanford, where he said two things that always stick with me. One, he said, the only way to do great work is to do something you're passionate about, which is, you hear a lot of people say that. But he said it in a way that really resonates and sticks with me.
I have no passion.
Right. The other thing that he said about technology, and I'm paraphrasing, was technology is not about what it can do, it's about what it can do for you. So it seems to me, part of what you're striving for with your goal with this is to explain further how a partnership, how the agency side can work with you, right to the theme of our show,
That's right.
to create a part. Is that part of your goal?
That's exactly right. It shines a big fat spotlight and says, if you've been focused on finding the perfect technology, it's valid, but it probably gets you 30% of the way. The rest of the way has got to be the part about what can it do for you is what can you make it do for you, which comes down to the partner that you're going to work with. And so this helps folks kind of make sense of what should I be looking for in a partner, what is that partner landscape. Agencies vary hugely, whether it's a technologically based systems integrator or whether it's a digital agency that's going to help you with your branding, and everything in between. They vary significantly. How can I make sense of that world? How can I decide who to pick? What do I think I need to care about most? What should I look at internally to figure out what I need from that? And then let me see a number of them so that I can look to these guys. If I have XYZ product, then I can go and find out who's a partner of theirs that I might want to talk to.
Nice job with that.
Thanks
Good
very
luck
much.
with the newsletter. Looking forward to, I'm sure everybody in the CMS space, what it can do for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tying
we
it-
look forward to dropping in 2 weeks, early August.
Awesome. Scott Lear, president of Digital Clarity Group. And we're moving on here at CMS Connected. Those are our news items. Now time for our guest segment. Our subject today that we are talking about is trying to think about the perfect partner for you in the space, trying to talk about the important role that a best fit integration team will play in overall success of your CMS project. And for our guest segment, we bring in Jason Crea from Sharewell. Jason is perfect for today's subject. As we talked about, a best fit integration team and the role that will play in the overall success of your web CMS project. We'll talk to Jason about what Sharewell software is all about, and we're going to dive into our topic today by jumping right into it. So without further ado, we welcome in our guest, Jason Crea. Jason, how you doing?
Doing fantastic.
Good to have you here.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm looking forward to it. This is obviously a subject that's near and dear to my heart.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about why it's near and dear to your heart. I mean, the brief Reader's Digest version, your bio about this subject, picking the right partners. We'll get into your history. When you were at Sitecore, you built the Partners Network. You've been at Ectron and other places. We'll get to your company, Sharewell, and what you're doing with there now. You're passionate about this, aren't you?
I'm incredibly passionate about it, and for a lot of good reasons, because these software products that you just, Sharewell, where I'm at today, Sitecore, Ectron previously, the software selection process, and going back to something Scott just mentioned, is 30% of the process.
Right.
And if you want to be successful in this industry, if you want to make sure that your customers are happy and successful with the tools that they're using, they have to pick the right implementation partner. And it is such a crucial part of their success matrix that without it, they're lost. And that's why early on in my career, I embraced that facet, that the software selection itself was just a part of the process to be successful. So then I went out and I made sure that I became very aware of what it took on the services side and the implementation side to be successful. So then building these networks and being able to evaluate who's best for which project is something that I've been working at and honing for a very long time.
It's interesting that you say that, having represented the software side of things, and one might kind of naturally think that the software vendors, like, this would be the dirty little secret of the industry. They wouldn't want you to know this, that they're not the most important part. But I think those that are progressive enough would recognize this and realize this, and they really look to their partner channel as you guys are your reputation is staked based on their implementation. Yes.
It's absolutely correct. And one of the challenges, I think, is the software industry does have a bit of an arrogance associated with it. It's just a fact. Because when your product is your sole reason for being, you can become myopic. You can look and think that everything revolves around the software. When you think about how how complex these solutions are and how widely they can be implemented, and how different that same solution could look at based on which partner is implementing it, you realize really quickly that it's not just about the software anymore. It's really about that combination of the right partner fit and the right software decision, because collectively, that's where the magic happens.
Well, it's interesting. You called it an arrogance with them. It's probably also a protectiveness, because this is their bread and butter. Their software, their product, their solution is their bread and butter. So while it's an arrogance, you can also almost understand where it comes from. But to your point, more so for the need to have the right team around you to help with this, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's true. When you're in that software room, you're thinking about all the customers you have. When you have thousands of customers that all think that say that you're awesome, it's easy to lose sight that part of what made you awesome was that correct implementation, the team that they worked with to make it happen. And I think the best companies embrace that. In fact, that's why I think, my suggestion to any company would be make sure that the technology company you're working with truly embraces its partner and implementation channel. Because the ones that don't, I don't think they could ever get it as well as those that recognize and appreciate. They're just a part of the puzzle. And it's just something that I'm sure, Scott, this is something you've been preaching for a long time.
It is, and it's the way that we, when we go through the selection process now, one of the other things, so getting out this report was critical for us, but from the way that we do our selections now, and this, we only do the selection of technology provider and the service provider at the same time, because we want to see that in context, right? So, but I'll tell you though, Jason, that when we embarked on this, the reaction from the various roles in the software companies was different, right? So you had the kind of the sales guys themselves that were in the field didn't love the idea, because they usually get to control who they're going to go hand this deal to, who they're going to bring in, which hopefully is in the best interest of the client. But sometimes it's because you're trying to create a relationship and you got to do that. You got to grow. You got to expand. The keepers of the brands, though, the marketing guys or the heads of sales or those who were like they cared a lot about the brand itself, they loved the idea, because then they could help to tell me who to focus on the report, and they want to have the deals go to those who are proven to be the best ones and whatever. Can you speak to that?
Well, that's a very common challenge for a software vendor. You're weighing profitability, revenue growth. Software companies are for the most part built to grow fast, rapidly. Right. And part of that is having a strong channel ecosystem. That's right. And the salespeople in the field, they're tasked with moving product. I think the secret to, one of the things we'll talk more about in how do you select the right implementation vendor is understanding the motivations of each person in the process, just like you do. The salesperson is trying to sell software. Sure. Control is a big part of that. Understanding what that customer's needs and wants are. But also they have their own long-term goal. They have that relationship with a partner that they're that they're coveting or they're protecting, and that customer is just a piece of the relationship, paradigm.
Right. That's right.
The higher you get, the farther away from it you are, the more honest you can be, I guess. Sure. The more open you can be. So I think for that, it makes sense that you would see that within the organization.
You are watching CMS Connected. My name is Butch Stern. Scott Lear is alongside. We're joined by Jason Crea. We are talking specifically about the important role that a best fit integration team will play in overall success of your CMS project. This is the only news commentary show in the content management industry. Jason, so let's get to the meat on the bone, which you talked about. How does an organization go about? What are some of the fundamentals here? You have a two-step process, right? About how you start selecting an integration team. What are those steps?
As we talked about earlier today, I think it starts with trying to simplify it in a way that you can get a handle on. There's so many vendors out there, right? There's so many options. So what I would recommend to any company to seriously consider are breaking your needs down by two main factors. One is this going to be a budget-driven process? Is the budget going to be the overriding factor? I only have X amount of money. I have a time and budget element there that's non-movable. Or is it a business solution process? We're doing and embarking on this technology and implementation program to fundamentally change or improve a core business process? Because the answer to that question is going to take you down two very different paths. And the companies that do well doing budget-centric projects, they tend to have a model, a process that they use over and over for each customer. It's a little less regard for what the ultimate solution is. It's a correct implementation of technology, but within the framework of budget, right? So they're going to.
So excuse me for interrupting, but before you get to your second step, I mean, to me, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking to myself, well, it's both. I need a business solution, and budget obviously is going to be a factor. But you said centric, so you have to decide what your primary focus is. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely correct. Because if budget drives you, I would equate it to a house, right? Yeah. If I'm going to go buy a house here in the Boston area and I've got $300,000 to spend, good luck, right? Right. Good luck. That's going to tell, I'm going to be an hour and a half away from the city. Forget the swimming pool. I didn't get the third garage. All those things, right?
Your family's living in one bedroom too, but anyway.
Probably true, but the fact is, if it's no, I have a 5-person family. I have toys. My kids need a pool. Guess what? Those things are going, and they're the most crucial element there. It's not the fact that I only have X to spend. That would take you down a very different path.
How many people need an in-law apartment? So if that's your focus and you're driving on it, the budget, it's like, well, I got to find a place for my mother-in-law. As much as I don't want to, that's like. So what's your second step? What's the second step after your approach?
So after you take this approach, what I would do is, I think the next crucial factor in this part is connect with your technology vendor. Because it's true, the salesperson is going to know the vendors that have the most success with the implementing of the solution. But I would talk to different people within the organization, just like Scott did. Right. I would ask a senior leader to talk with a senior leader about, hey, can I talk about who's your most strategic partners? I would look at their events. Who are the ones that are sponsoring and active and speaking? I think that process is a really important step. And of course, you cannot bypass the references, right? Yeah. You need to dive deeper into your partner, the partners that are being recommended to you for their expertise, for the solutions that they've built, and talk to those people to ensure that what you're getting and what you're hearing are the same thing, right?
I think you're so spot on there with that. I guess I'll get to two kind of parts of the question to that, which is, one is to the point, who are the people specifically? Can you name roles in a software organization of folks that they should call on to talk to find out who's the player, the short list of agencies or integrators that they should talk to, if it's not just the sales guy?
Almost every one of these software vendors has a head of partnerships and alliances. That person's crucial because that person is the steward of the entire channel, right? And they're going to look at everyone holistically. Yeah. So they're going to be honest in their answers. And while they certainly can be influenced by business factors, the fact is they're looking bigger. They're looking bigger because they have to. Right. And the success of their program is in the success of the implementations done by their partners. So I would highly recommend reaching out to whoever's the head or in charge of their technology and their alliance and partnership group, because you're going to find that's an amazing resource. On the flip side, as you know, the product marketing group can be a really strong group to talk to, because those people are the bridge often between the marketing and the technology team itself. But they're often working with partners to understand what they're implementing, and they're taking that feedback back to development. Sure. So they might have an insight for you. I mean, I'm giving you non-traditional people to contact, I guess, in that regard. But if it was me and it was my decision, and I've been part of this selection process, in fact, we're going through one at Cherwell now, these are the people you want to talk to.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense.
So if it's the product marketing people, how do you help arm them? Because clearly we all want to get to decision makers, right? And that decision maker, as you said, is going to be focused by both of it, business solution and by budget. They're the decision makers, right? So say they're primarily focused on a business solution. I would think in general, or maybe you want to give a specific example, if I'm dealing with a product marketing person or somebody else, what can help me is to arm them with a solution that they can present within their organization to the decision maker. Do you have a specific example or a general rule that you?
Sure, I'll give you one. When you go business solution, people go broad. The first thing I would warn a company that's investing in this type of technology is, do not assume for a moment you fully grasp and understand all that the technology you just purchased or selected can do. Yeah, because I think the pitfall many companies fall into is they go in with a preconceived notion of exactly what they want, the business solution. I would equate this to the hiring of a really key and important person within your company. You don't hire a person within your company and tell that person what to do. They're hired to fulfill a role. They're bringing experiences and successes to your organization. I would say your partner selection process should be a lot like that. That you research, determine, and find that right partner in trust that they're going to help you form what that ultimate business solution will look like. Because I don't care who you are in this space. As a customer, you haven't done 15 or 20 or 150 of these projects, but a lot of these partners have.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you be more, why would you be more, instead of getting myopic and task specific, get more solution specific and request and allow them to provide some input into what that ultimate solution looks like? I don't think companies do that nearly enough and trust that these people and the experience they bring to the table can help them build better projects.
I think you're so right, man, and your analogies are so spot on, by the way. I love the hiring analogy, but
And the mother-in-law and Harper too.
that one was too. You got a few of them now. That's great. I think mother-in-law has something going on with you
Let's
right
not
now.
go there.
For me, I'm trying to find a house for my mother-in-law 3 states over. That's what I'm trying to do. Sorry, that's going to get in trouble. Moving on. No, I think you're so right, and we, I have to say that the whole kind of partnership mentality that you're suggesting that customers, the buyers out there take, I think is so right. I mean, I've always taken. I felt like if one thing that I had a reputation for and the DCG has a reputation for in the industry, and I hope that you echo this, is that when we were doing technology selections, we've always had the kind of partnership mentality. I'm not trying to scrutinize a software provider. I'm not trying to put them on the spot. I'm not trying to make them dance. I'm respecting their time in terms of how much they've got to put into it and making it as, because you are kicking off a relationship in the long term, and if one side of that has an upper hand and power over in some weird way, that's not a healthy relationship regardless. I think that's, and so while I advise that on the software side, I especially advise that when you're looking to somebody who you're going to work with who's going to essentially be the arbiter of your strategy. They're going to be the one that has to know it, understand it, embrace it, and they're going to guide you. You're buying their expertise, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. In fact, I think the key word there is partnership.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we get caught up on the fact that the software vendor and its implementation partner is a partnership, but it only works when that customer can be included within that triangle.
That's right.
That they're all partnering together. And it can't be just the implementation. You know this for a fact, and I think this is one of the things I've always respected about your process at the Digital Clarity Group is that you respect the fact that the software vendor, the implementation partner, and the company collectively have to be in partnership for this to work. Because, as you would know, an implementation partner might cut corners in the way they deploy the software to meet budget requirements, where the software vendor might tell the customer to consider these things because they might have long-term ramifications. Now, that also means that the software vendor is going to be telling the customer that it can do everything and anything under the sun, right? You pull a magic little cord, it does. Then the implementation partner is going to mitigate that, right? They're like, listen, there's a lot of, that looks sexy in a demo, but that is a very complex, multi-phase project to accomplish.
You got it.
And it's that, it's like how good decisions are made internally, right? It's rarely one person. It's often not just two. It's a group or team of people that look at the organization relationship holistically.
Jason Crea, the Chief Revenue Officer at Cherwell Software, is joining us here on CMS Connected. Jason, you had a huge part, very instrumental in building great partner networks, partner channels at Ectron and Sitecore. Take a shot at this question. The two schools of thought, the two different models. Working yourself and doing a lot of this yourself, or building the partner network. What's the value in both? What's the pros and cons? I mean, you could go a lot of ways with this question, but just talk briefly about the two schools of thought and the model and how you think about that.
You're saying of building a professional services team versus
Yes.
looking to your partnership ecosystem
Yes.
to do the work for you.
That's an excellent question. At Cherwell, we do both today. We have implementation resources. Sitecore is, I think, a great example of an organization that has fully embraced the channel strategy where it's exclusively implementing through partners. Or customers that have the resources and capabilities to do it themselves. I think that's an important point to highlight. Ectron, I know, has gone through multiple iterations over the years. So there's a lot of factors. Ultimately, I would argue that software vendors should excel at software. And when you're looking at what's the best way to build an implementation ecosystem, the channel makes so much more sense because that channel can have expertise outside of just this core technical competency. They might have competency across multiple software applications and should. I would highly suggest, I would always be aware of the organization that only has one software tool that they can implement. Yeah. They're one trick pony. Yeah. How would they know that, they should have some scope and breadth when it comes to understanding the different tools and what they can do because, sometimes you need a hammer, not a saw, right? I would tell you that, though, from a purely business perspective, Bruce, for those organizations that are looking to fast track and grow rapidly, you can't you can't knock the channel strategy, the pure play channel strategy, because ultimately what you're doing is you're building a larger ecosystem of organizations. And software vendors that overlook how important the implementation and channel is to their growth, to the successful implementation, they don't tend to get very big. I mean, ultimately, they cap out, there's a particular, you've seen it, multi-million-dollar threshold, which it just, you can't go past it. You've built a glass ceiling for yourself. You need to be big enough, your ecosystem needs to be large enough to pull you up through that ceiling.
Right, and that's from the software vendor's perspective, but from the customer's perspective, just clarify this for me, and maybe this is more of a statement than a question, but I have a lot of customers who say, well, no, I really want, obviously the software company is going to be the only ones who are the best experts in this. I don't want somebody else who only does, this and maybe some other software as well. And so they think that the best answer will always come from the software vendor themselves. And they're more concerned with kind of the direction of the product more so than they are in having faced the business challenges day to day and having implemented it so much. So, I mean, can you bespoke that? Because what you're saying would go against the kind of natural tendency of a customer to just want to have the best, and the best must be the ones who built it.
You have a much nicer way to place that, because what I hear is the one throat to choke scenario, which is...
I like to say one back.
Yeah, sure, okay. I get it from a little bit different perspective. So ultimately, though, I do think that is a viable concern in statement from a customer. It really is, because ultimately they need, and as I said, the software vendors should be a crucial part of the implementation strategy.
Yeah.
But they're experts in their software. The challenge is, how can you be pure play expert in technology and also be an expert in every facet of all the different verticals and business solutions out there? And that's the challenge, right? And that's where I think...
It's a myopic view.
It is. And so while it seems like that company should know the best way to implement their software, do they know the best way to implement it for a higher ed institution versus a healthcare company versus a manufacturing organization? And it is in that detail that the model breaks down enough where I think we both agree the software vendors should be crucial, but to rely exclusively on them is to miss out on so much more expertise that's available.
Jason, great stuff. Final thought about Sharewell Software and what you're doing there now and the passion you've brought to them.
Hey, listen, I had a great run at Sitecore. In fact, absolutely still stay very close. I'm very intimately aware of the channel strategy of that particular group, and I make sure I keep myself in the loop. I still have a lot of those partner firms I still have a very close relationship with. But Sharewell is bringing a lot of it. It was a very exciting opportunity for me. They are aligned strategically with an investment banking group called Insight Venture Partners. And essentially, when you look at the web content management space, it was the marketer using technology to communicate effectively through a digital medium.
Yep.
What the Sharewell application is doing is, from an IT services perspective, it's the IT versus marketing group communicating effectively to the internal organization. So the customer is the company. And this is something that I've got a lot of passion, which is effectively communicating and building a good customer experience. And I don't care if it's an external or an external company experience. And that's what Sharewell is so exciting for me, is that they are really concerned with building the communication strategies with their internal constituents like a marketer is with a customer. Yep. And it's a different way to look at it. It's an exciting thing, and I think it's obviously extremely successful. We've been crushing the numbers and growing rapidly, so
Great.
I'm really happy with where it's at.
Thanks for coming in, Jason.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Jason Sharewell, the Chief Revenue Officer, Jason Crea, the Chief Revenue Officer at Sharewell.com, Sharewell Software. All right, time for us to take a quick break. When we come back, our In the Spotlight segment with Brian Ruby. We put Scott on the clock in rapid fire. We're back on CMS Connected in just a bit.
My dream is for the internet is my dream.
My dream for the internet is for it to actively protect privacy and freedom of speech.
Internet where thousands of people can collaborate all across the world together on a piece of software that lets anybody from a big media company to a kid in their basement make an awesome website.
The websites know me, so they can show me relevant content.
The internet will always be used for good and never for evil.
To remove all education barriers.
Someday, all websites will look terrific on one of these.
My dream for the internet is that it's available to everyone.
My dream is for the internet to have a good open source CMS.
Dream it, Drupal it, Aqua. Sorry?
Dream it,
Drupal it, Aqua.
Go to aqua.com/free.
Go to aqua.com/free.
Go to aqua.com/free.
Businesses today demand a powerful web content management and online marketing platform that can provide the best value at an affordable price with unlimited website possibilities. Kentico, the .NET Enterprise Marketing Solution and web content management platform of choice, powers more than 12,000 websites in over 84 countries, which means you get a stable, well-tested solution. Fully loaded with over 350 web parts and controls and more than 80 extensible modules. Kentico provides you with a fully integrated solution for building your online presence and running successful online marketing campaigns. It allows you to quickly launch an effective B2B or B2C site, intranet, online store, or branded online community, fully integrated with Facebook and Twitter. Test drive Kentico EMS today to get a complete appreciation of all its powerful features and capabilities.
Welcome back to CMS Connected. Time now for our In the Spotlight segment. And today, on our In the Spotlight segment, we're going to be reviewing the portal solution Liferay. Liferay is an enterprise open source portal and collaboration software product servicing Fortune 500 companies worldwide, offering enterprise edition subscriptions. Liferay also houses a professional services group that provides training, consulting, and enterprise support services to clientele in the Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific. And here now joining us, Skyping in from CMS Report, cmsreport.com, is Brian Ruby. Brian, welcome back to the show.
Well, hello. Thank you for having me. And Butch, it's nice to finally meet you for the first time.
Yeah, you too. Glad to have you here. So let's dive right into it. What can you tell us about Liferay's products and services, and how does a portal differ from a CMS, Brian?
Well, that's a good question. You know, 2 years ago, Liferay invited me to come to their symposium, which is their conference. And I said, well, you know, I know content management. I don't know anything about portals. And I really didn't. 2 years ago, you know, what's a portal? I had this vague notion. And basically, you know, a portal is generally defined as a software platform. You can build a website, and you can also web applications with it. But the heavy emphasis is you can integrate those applications together. And that's basically what a portal is. And so, you know, to answer your question, really the difference between a CMS and a portal is kind of the point of origin. They're all going the same direction, where you have this kind of convergence of you know, collaboration, content management, e-commerce, you know, those type of things. And so they're all heading in the same direction, but where Liferay has come from is their requirement of trying to integrate products together. So that's why they're geared more towards the enterprise than towards maybe your mom and pop web shop.
So after looking at Liferay's portal, evaluating a little bit, talk about some of the features that you like the most.
Yeah, but you know, it's got, like I said, a mix of Liferay's, their portal side, which also includes their content side. They also have a social office product, so that's kind of doing with the social and collaboration. They also have a Liferay, what they call sync product, which at first it doesn't look like much, but it really ties in your document management and file sharing needs. Probably what I like about Liferay is their CMS is a CMS. You know, when I visited them, many of their executives were kind of apologetic, saying they weren't sure how I would view their content management that's built into Liferay portal. But the nice thing about their CMS is there's no surprises. In other words, there's nothing missing there. It's a full-fledged content management system with Liferay. So, you know, one of the themes that you'll have in here is out of the box, you know, a basic type content management system, which most every product has. And then where they differ and where they try to make a difference is what happens to the more, when you have a real problem that you need to find a solution to, how can you customize that content management system? And that's what, and Liferay does that pretty well. They do quite a bit of, you know, what you would expect. You know, they treat things like what they call as assets, but, you know, content type, or maybe like in Drupal, you know it as a node. They basically treat every type of document. They kind of can customize the relationship with that stuff. And it has to the categories, the tags, the taxonomy, right. And do complex things. But, you know, they're a portal. And what's nice about Liferay is it's very well built for integration. As I mentioned before, their APIs all open, they're open source. So what that means is, what if you don't like their content management system, but you like the fact that they have a portal and you like their social office collaboration? You can integrate as far as your application into Liferay. So they're not one of these people that want you to use only their product. The whole point of a portal is you use other people's products too with them.
Right. So the open source part of it, the no surprises CMS, the document management tie-in, the social collaboration, those are the things you like. What's missing from the Liferay portal?
Well, that's a good one. I think what's kind of missing in some ways is probably I'd say there's not missing much actually towards the content management, but maybe what's missing a little bit is the culture as far as towards content management. They're kind of a little bit more geared towards the integration side of things, and so it takes a little while for you, if you're coming from you're used to, as far as maybe the more pure content management systems, to kind of get along with their culture side of things. But it's a good culture. It's a culture I feel pretty comfortable with. And it's also a culture that's kind of heavily based on IT. If you have an IT shop and you're an enterprise company, your people are going to feel very comfortable with Liferay there.
So for the sake of time, Brian, let me combine our last two questions. What's next? What do you think Liferay will be unveiling down the road here? And what are the types of companies that should give Liferay a close look?
Okay. Well, basically, they have Liferay 6.2, which is coming out. One of the things that's going to really improve on is user interface, which, in my opinion, needed a lot of improvements. So that's one of the things that was missing, Butch, is better, is kind of a usability and as far as the user interface, and they're also going to emphasize on responsive design, and they're also going to be taking a look at their marketplace app store, which right now they have 150 different third-party apps that are all free, but they're going to start building up e-commerce for their partners on that side of things. As far as what I would recommend as far as Liferay, basically, if you're an enterprise and you're really trying to find a solution-oriented type product, that's what Liferay is. And so if you have an IT shop, that's good. Also, if you're a big enterprise, though, you're also going to, if you don't have a good IT enterprise, you're going to want to really look at service providers. They have like Signex, Rivet Logic, Extivia. They're all partners, that people that work with Liferay, and also other products like Alfresco and those type of things. And what's nice about those partnerships is, at least my experience has been, is all their partners in Liferay are pretty much a soft sell. In the fact that they want you to have the right solution. If you don't, they're going to leave you alone. But most times they're not. They're going to have a solution for you.
Our review of Liferay as our In the Spotlight segment. This has been Brian Ruby of CMS Report. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Butch. Nice to see you.
You too. Again, that was Brian Ruby. If you would like to find out more about his report, just follow him on Twitter at CMS Report. CMS Report, at CMS Report. And there's his information. You can find more about his review. All right, Scott, so let's dig a little deeper into this. He talked about what he liked. He talked about what he thinks missing from Liferay. What are some of the key things that stick out to you?
Sure. So talk a little bit about Liferay as a company. So first of all, they've been around since '04. Right? And as Brian said, they are geared more towards the enterprise. They are in that portal/CMS space, both of them. And they are open source, or commercial open source at least. And so all those things are meaningful in terms of what they're doing. I think that they're really meaningful for me when I think about the kind of wave of where WCM is going, right? And we talk about customer experience in general, that there are so many. We talked about Adobe picking up, new parts of marketing automation. We talk about all these companies that are kind of broadening their fence posts to include more and more capabilities. It just seems so natural for a portal then to be the kind of play there, where it is all about the underpinnings of it is all about integrating lots of applications. And certainly open source also tends to have that philosophy where it's you're going to have open APIs and you're going to be able to be inclusive of things. So I think Liferay is positioned really well to basically be a relevant player in the customer experience, playground, I guess, if you will, moving forward. I just think they generally, though, they are kind of a smaller company and a smaller player, and their marketing is not big. Their presence isn't widely known necessarily. even their ecosystem of partners isn't necessarily huge. So I think that as a company, there's some things that they could do to, I think, increase their brand a little bit more. And in terms of whether that's marketing, getting out there, maybe it's telling that story, telling that message. It's kind of like portals have always been whatever you want to get out of it. What do you want it to be? It can be this, it can be that. That's great, but I think you need to be able to be really clear about what you are. And so get on I think they need to be really clear about why they're the best kind of place to play. I think I've made a bigger statement than they might have, where I say, if you're concerned with customer experience, then this is a good place to go, and this is a good place to start building your apps on top of and take advantage of that open source API and all that. They don't really talk about that in the market. It's more like do with it what you want, I think.
So final quick comment on this. With you talking about where the wave of WCM is going, and them coming out with this portal, great opportunity for them right now to put themselves on the map, isn't it?
I think it really is. I think, like I say, the stage is set. Right? And it's up for them to go kind of find some of those nuggets that are going to appeal to the marketplace, whoever their marketplace is. They're probably selling more traditionally to the IT buyers than to the marketing buyers, just because of the nature of the system that they have. But they really need to find ways to tap into that, I think, and they get a lot more leverage out of a lot more mileage out of that if they can really brand themselves and align with a strategy.
You ready for rapid fire?
I'm as ready as I'm going to be, man, for sure.
Time now for rapid fire. We put Scott on the clock. 6 stories, 60 seconds for each. Let's get started. First one, formerly known as, we got a name change, .NET Nuke is no more. On July 9th, DNN was introduced with a renewed focus on its platform for developers and a set of content and social solutions now referred to as DNN Evoc. Why? Why the name change? What does the name change mean to you, Scott?
I actually think this is pretty meaningful. I mean, we were all referring to .NET Nuke as DNN anyway. I mean, it was kind of so this was not a significant brand change, and that folks are not going to know what it's all about. The nice thing, though, is especially as you start to get into where the buyers are more on the business side or in the line of business, they are less concerned with technology, and I think that's a good thing, because DNN has seen their application be, it was very obviously, by the name of their branding, it was very Microsoft specific, .NET. And so the play always was, even when I was doing technology selections, or still am doing technology, it was always about, is it Java or .NET? And as we move to the cloud more and more, that's less of a concern now. Now that's no longer the care anymore about what platform you're built on, because it's in the cloud and it doesn't necessarily have to matter so much. So I think it's a really good play for them to just kind of back off of that, the team that they've chosen to play on. The Evoke side, they've basically labeled one of their primary products, and so now DNN is the company and Evoke is the
Look at you hit that post at 60 seconds.
If I could just get that last word out, then I would have done it.
Second story is an announcement from Oasis, CMSwire.com. Enterprise content management systems now have an updated version of the standard for sharing information. Earlier this month, the Oasis International Consortium announced it had approved version 1.1 of content management interoperability services as an official OAS standard. Make sense of this for us, Scott.
Sure. And it's Oasis. Oasis is the standards company that essentially puts a lot of these things into play. This thing takes a lot of time. It's a lot of the large players in the industry. Adobe is a big player. Actually, I shouldn't even start to name names, because many of them all have people who are participating on the Oasis board who have been working on this CMIS standard for a long time. This is the second, well, it's 1.1, but it's the second approved version of the standard since the first one was approved back in, I think, 2010. And essentially what this allows is, especially in this landscape that we're in, where we're talking about integrating lots of applications again, like we talked about with Salesforce and Box, this is a layer that allows these ECM, essentially, applications to be able to talk to each other. What 1.1 is going to allow for is a lot more of that to be kind of cloud-based. So taking advantage and leveraging the fact that it's cloud-ready for other applications to be able to leverage that from the cloud, and to be able to essentially work in this larger ecosystem so that we can have more of the Box Salesforce type, not kind of build it all and you have to do it. So I think that's where it's at.
Our third story comes under the heading of good enough with a question mark. Here's the story. According to Ron Miller at Fierce Content Management, when it comes to content management, good enough just could be good enough. In other words, as we're beginning to see the decline, and Jason talked about this, of the colossal systems, companies like EMC and OpenText, known for selling large systems, trying to be all things to all people, companies have reorganized that many customers don't want or need true enterprise content management. Good enough is good enough.
Yeah, I think this was it was a great kind of pragmatic article by Ron. He writes a lot of good stuff. If you haven't checked him out, go to fiercecontentmanagement.com. He does really good work. But we've kind of beat up on ECM on this show about 4 or 5 times already. It feels like that's kind of the theme. It was the way of old, which was let's go build this big, huge platform. Let's go look for the absolute best one that we can find out there. Let's go get a huge tick list of all the features and functions that we might ever want at some point, and then let's go make that big, gigantic buy. And then, oh, by the way, it'll take 2 or 3 years before it's implemented. We'll launch it, and everybody's going to come, right? That worked out really well. I think what he's basically saying is, you know, great sometimes or excellent is the absolute enemy of good enough. And so essentially now just buying a scalable platform, agility is key. Can you be agile enough to go with the times? Can you integrate with other applications that folks are using? The notion of BYOD, where your employees are now bringing their own devices and bringing their own applications and stuff, is really key. And so having a playground that folks can all play together and move over.
Our next story here in our rapid fire segment on CMS Connected talks about exceptional experiences, and that's the name of it from IBM. IBM's newly named and enhanced Exceptional Digital Experiences Platform includes the IBM Customer Experience Suite, IBM Employee Experience Suite. It's essentially mobile analytics optimization, rich media management, and social technologies. Scott, your thoughts on where IBM made the biggest improvements here?
Yeah, this was interesting. So they had an influencer meeting about 2 weeks ago, but just launched this announcement officially, I think, on the 24th earlier this week. This was big, I think, because obviously IBM is a huge elephant in the room, but frankly, they hadn't necessarily innovated in an obvious way in the digital experience world so far, in this kind of CEM world. And even though I actually think they've done tremendous job bringing their platform along. They've really got some nice pieces. They always had them, and now they've really pulled them together in a nice way. This launch is just their branding of what they're calling exceptional digital experiences, and some of the parts that they've now enhanced in this is they've enhanced the kind of mobility. So obviously mobile is really key for folks, so they've made it a lot more mobile ready. Rich media is huge, and we're on video right now. That's a really big part. Analytics and optimization, being able to improve your experience, and then the social aspect is obviously really huge. So they've come a long way with the product, and I think it's a nice platform now, well-rounded.
Damn lightweights. That is the title of our next story. Comes from CMS Reports. Sorry for the profanity, folks, but it is the internet. This month, Telerik released a new version of its web and mobile CMS, Sitefinity 6.1. Significant to the new Sitefinity 6.1 release is a lightweight digital asset management component. According to Telerik, analysts are seeing a nearly 60% year-over-year increase in DAM-related client inquiries. These users require the ability to quickly and easily do their job without having to jump through hoops for the most mundane tasks, such as making minor edits to an image, creating and editing a document, searching for a video, or editing news items or posts.
DAM is digital asset management, which is why it's not a bad word in these terms. So digital asset management, along that theme that we just talked about with IBM, where we're talking about rich media, it's about video, it's about images. This is where it's all at. And what we talk about is we're seeing a lot of customers coming to us now looking more and more for these digital asset management systems because they realize that rich media and access to that is going to captivate your audience, is going to increase engagement pretty quickly, essentially being a shortcut to engagement. The challenge with it, though, is usually it is at odds with being able to personalize, right? Think about putting up a YouTube video. You're not going to be able to understand how far into that people watched. It's basically a black box of information. So with them putting out a digital asset management system within the tool, while it is lightweight, the ability to kind of tag and those sorts of things, to be able to find and access that media, be able to bring that into those personalized experiences where it is driven dynamically, is really going to put them in a good place. And I think this is what the market is asking for, and they're responding to it well.
Our final story and final headline on Rapid Fire also includes the word damn, and I'll tell you why. It's a bit self-serving, but damn it, we're proud of this announcement. Digital Pulse, yes, the Pulse Network is teaming up with Digital Clarity Group to launch Digital Pulse. Now, what's Digital Pulse? It's a new multimedia event focused on the worlds of content marketing, social business, and web content management. And damn it, Scott, we're proud to make this announcement.
We are, and I feel like I shouldn't be the only one in the thing. We should put our heads together on this one.
Oh, this is rapid fire. This is yours, baby. Sell it.
Digital Clarity Group and Pulse teaming up. Kind of nice little play on words with Digital Pulse. is a new conference for us. It is playing off of IMS, which has been a well responded to series in 3 cities so far. We're going to play off of that in Boston coming in October the 16th through the 18th. Of this year. We've got some really great sponsors and some really amazing speakers. I think even, Butch, what we've done with this in terms of the way that we're laying it out at the Heinz Convention Center where it's going to be taking place, we've got this nice theater in the round where the speakers are going to be on the podium in the dead center with the audience all around them. Lots of TED Talk-like things, really great speakers, really good content, and it really is all about for the line of business and for IT, kind of how web content management is shifting to customer experience and why that's really essential and how you're going to be able to set your path to get there.
And it's cool because you can go to inboundmarketingsummit.com and find out about our 6-year event and series of events that we have. And you can also go to Digital Pulse and find out more about this partnership and more specifics about the event.
Absolutely. I'm really excited about it. It's going to be a great event.
Going to invite me back for the next show?
Man, I loved having you on this show.
Nice job, Scott.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Our next show is in August here on CMS Connected. It'll be focusing on design and the creative role CMS platforms play. And our spotlight feature will be on Crafter Software. Finally, I'd like to thank Falcon Software and Digital Clarity Group, our lead sponsors here on CMS Connected. And also Jason Correa and Brian Ruby. Great job by both of them.
They were really good guests. I think both of them brought a lot to the show.
Yeah, you were pretty good too today.
Thanks, man. You too. You did a great job.
You were pretty good on this show. So get connected and stay connected with CMS Connected. Check out some of the shows on demand. And thank you for being a part of CMS Connected today. We'll see you next time.